Worse things out tonight than vampires.
Like what?
Like me.
A new R-rated Blade should have been an easy win for Marvel Studios, but bringing the Daywalker into the MCU has been harder than ice skating uphill. This is what we know about the movie we've missed out on. In 2019, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige appeared at San Diego Comic-Con to show fans what they could expect from the next 2 years of the MCU. Perhaps the most exciting news of the presentation was the casting of actor Mahershala Ali as the same vampire-killing vampire that Wesley Snipes played from 1998 to 2004. With a worthy successor in the title role and the promise of enough blood and profanity to necessitate an R rating, everyone thought Blade would be a slam dunk along the lines of 2017's Logan. Why is that?
Because the world isn't nice.
Even though it's been more than 6 years since that fateful day in Hall H, Ali's Blade still has yet to show his face in the MCU. Not only that, but Snipes beat him to the punch, returning as his version of the character in 2024's Deadpool and Wolverine. He and Deadpool, and by proxy Marvel itself, poked fun at the reboot's descent into development hell.
There's only been one Blade. There's only ever gonna be one Blade.
There's still a chance that Marvel Studios could finally get their act together and bring Ali's Blade to the big screen. But if they do give him a movie, it'll be very different from the creative team's initial vision. Every time a new detail about the MCU's Blade is revealed, the fact that we'll never get to see it gets a bit more upsetting. Here's just a taste of what might have been. In 2025, Feige addressed the repeated delays of Blade by saying to the press, "We didn't want to simply just put a leather outfit on Ali and have him start killing vampires. It had to be unique." That said, it's not like the ideas they did have weren't unique. Much like Captain America, the first Avenger, and Captain Marvel, the MCU's Blade was once planned to be a period piece. It would have taken place in the 1920s, presumably following the Daywalker's adventures in a radically different America. This particular plan for Blade was nothing more than a rumor for years, but it was finally confirmed for a peculiar reason. During an interview with Screen Crush, producer Servo Hanian explained that Blade costume designer Ruth E. Carter used some of Marvel's unused costumes in the other vampire-centric period piece she was working on at the time. He recalled, "She was working on the Blade movie that ended up not shooting. At one point, that movie was going to deal with the same era as Sinners. She happened to have a warehouse full of period-appropriate clothes. And it was like, yo, we got to shoot this movie like tomorrow, and Marvel was generous enough and kind enough to let us basically purchase it at price." It's a good thing they did, because Sinners ended up earning Carter an Oscar nomination for Best Costume Design, among 15 others.
Good evening.
Evening.
You look mighty nice.
Thank you.
If Blade ended up being anything like Sinners, it probably would have been one of the best movies in the entire MCU. Instead, the 2023 Hollywood strikes prevented them from shooting at all. But that wasn't even the only time that production got derailed. One of today's most talented young actors in the horror genre, Mia Goth has appeared in the X trilogy, the Suspiria remake, Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, and she would have been in Blade if things hadn't fallen apart. In the scrapped 1920s version, Goth was meant to play a vampire named Lilith who's trying to steal the blood of Blade's daughter. In the comics, Lilith Drake is a particularly powerful bloodsucker with a fair share of daddy issues. The only problem is that her dad is literally Dracula. Yes, that Dracula, who plays a surprisingly large role in Marvel lore and even appears in Blade Trinity.
Blade. Ready to die.
I was born ready, mother.
Also known by the name Lily Drake, Lilith has a serious bone to pick with her dad. Like Blade, she's more powerful than your average vampire, also possessing the ability to daywalk. All the garlic in the world won't stop this vampire from drinking your blood, something she technically doesn't have to do to survive, but enjoys doing anyway. She can't die as long as her father is still alive, and she physically can't kill him herself, but that doesn't stop her from trying. Goth is still attached to Blade if and when it finally goes into production, but she probably won't be wearing the same outfit and wig that she wore during her costume fitting. She might not even be playing Lilith still. Goth said that she enjoyed her time helping with pre-production, but as she revealed to Josh Horowitz on the Happy Sad Confused podcast, it never went further than that.
It was very cool, and Mahershala had such an interesting take on it. He was great. And then it just, unraveled from there, unfortunately.
If you're listening closely, you might have noticed that the 1920s take on Blade depicts the daywalker having a daughter, something that the Wesley Snipes version never had. That's because Brielle Brooks is a relatively recent creation, making her first comic book appearance in 2022. When Brielle is born, Blade gets Doctor Strange to cast a spell that can keep her hidden from supernatural forces, kind of like what happens in Spider-Man No Way Home. When Strange dies, the spell wears off, giving Blade no other choice but to show her the ropes. Afterwards, she becomes a student at Avengers Academy, going by the alias Bloodline. Unlike Lilith, we don't know who was supposed to play Brielle. That is, if they ended up casting anyone at all before starting the script over. By giving Blade someone to fight for, Brielle's presence in his movie definitely would have upped the stakes, pun intended. Technically, Ollie's Blade has appeared in the MCU. Well, not appeared per se. He made a voice cameo in the post-credits scene of 2021's Eternals, approaching Kit Harington's character with a warning and setting up future projects in the process. At least, that was the intention.
Sure you're ready for that, Mr. Whitman?
Dane Whitman isn't just the Eternal Cersei's love interest. He's also the heir of the Ebony Blade, an enchanted sword that can cut through anything and makes its wielder effectively immortal. That doesn't come free though. The Blade's corrupting influence can turn even the most righteous warrior into a bloodthirsty killer. That's a lot for a normal guy like Dane to deal with, especially since his girlfriend just got yoinked by a Celestial.
Turns out my family history is complicated.
Thankfully, he doesn't have to figure things out on his own. At least one scrapped version of the Blade script is said to have featured Dane, who becomes the hero known as the Black Knight in the comics. According to writer Alex Perez from the Cosmic Circus, Dane and his weapon of choice were once planned to have a much bigger role than most people expected. He posted on X, regarding the plot for the supernatural storyline, the whole point of Blade is to tell the story of Blade and the history behind Ebony Blade, so a title with two meanings. Considering that Dane is somewhere around his mid-30s in Eternals, it's safe to say that this wasn't the same version of the script that was going to take place in the 1920s. Still, the presence of Harrington as the Black Knight could add a fun fantasy element to the MCU, one that Game of Thrones fans would certainly appreciate. Unfortunately, it seems like Blade won't be the place for that to happen. Plenty of movies in the MCU have been handed off between writers and directors, but the production of Blade has turned it into an art form. Ever since the first crew members were hired, it's been a revolving door of talents that's left us wondering what could have been. Up-and-coming filmmaker Bassam Tariq was hired to direct Blade in 2021. Stacey Osei Kaffour, who was part of the writing team for HBO's Watchmen, signed on to pen the scripts that same year. In 2022, Marvel Studios decided to go in a different direction writer-wise. They hired Beau DeMayo, creator of X-Men 97, to write his own take on Blade. When Tariq left Blade due to delays and creative differences that same year, White Boy Rick director Jan de Monge took his place. When They See Us co-scribe Michael Starbury was enlisted for a rewrite, only for Ali to pull in his True Detective collaborator Nick Pizzolatto to rewrite the script. By this point, they'd already decided on the 1920s setting for the project. The 2023 Writers Guild of America strike threw a wrench into their plans. Another writer, Michael Green of Logan and Blade Runner 2049 fame, was brought aboard, and the period piece angle was nixed. 2024 saw Demange head for the exit, and frequent Marvel collaborator Eric Pearson took over writing duties. As it stands, no director is currently attached to Blade. Creatives of other kinds also abandoned ship over the years. Sinners actor Delroy Lindo and Rebel Ridge star Aaron Pierre both left after the strikes ended, and the film was brought back to the present day. As for the music, Grammy-winning producer Flying Lotus revealed on X, "Yeah, I was signed on to write music for the new Blade movie before it fell through. Maybe it'll come around again, but I doubt it. Would have been fun though."
He's not gonna come back. Nobody's that stupid.
If we do get a new Blade movie, it'll probably be set in the present day, but if we don't, it's not like Ali's take on the character will go forever unseen. It's widely believed that Marvel Studios is setting up a Midnight Suns movie, featuring Blade alongside with other well-known characters. So who are the Midnight Suns exactly? Think of them as the X-Men, but specifically for anti-heroes with abilities tied to the occult. Naturally, Blade fits right in. He's one of the team's original members, along with Morbius, 2 Ghost Riders, and 5 more. They've had plenty of famous faces come and go over the years, including Moon Knight, Werewolf by Night, Man-Thing, and Elsa Bloodstone. Those four have already been introduced to the MCU, and fans have been anxious to see them make the jump from Disney Plus to the big screen.
Also, after 20 years, I hope you didn't feel obligated to come.
Even though skipping straight to Midnight Suns would be a major departure from Marvel Studios' original plan, that doesn't necessarily mean that every element of previous scripts would be absent. They can still find a role for Mia Goth, and they can still find a place for Brielle. Dane Whitman hasn't had any affiliation with the Midnight Suns in the comics, but it isn't like Marvel Studios couldn't shoehorn him in there somewhere. As for the 1920s setting, even if Midnight Suns takes place in the 21st century, there's always room for a good old-fashioned flashback.
I've been here a long time.
Or maybe he'll just show up in Secret Wars, along with half of Hollywood.